Good morning, traders. Today is Wednesday, January 19th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, I wanted to start this morning zoomed out here looking at the daily candles because I wanted to talk about the 100 simple moving average. So that is this blue line that you see right here. That's the 100 simple moving average. And I want to kind of talk about the way that we flirted with it the last time, as we're starting to test it here today. So the last time we came down here, we barely touched it and got a bounce that turned out to be a dead cat bounce, okay? And then the market came back down. And then the next time that we tested the 100 daily simple moving average, we just kind of grinded around it for like 4 or 5 days, pushed above, came back down, tested it once more, 2 days of grinding around it. Then we got the breakout with the excess to the upside. So the reason I wanted to bring that up was to say, to me, first and foremost, this first candle here that led to the dead cat bounce and the retest, to me, feels a lot like this candle here. Okay? So that this could be the dead cat bounce and this the retest. They may have just front run it a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had a scenario where we just kind of balanced around in this area for a few days like we did here on these days. And if you remember, this was an extremely emotional time where every day we thought, oh, the market's going to completely crash. We're about to recover. It's going to be a huge V-shape. Oh, it's going to crash, V-shape crash. It was that kind of feeling every day, like anything could happen and we could have a major move, and then all we did was grind and grind and grind for like 4 or 5 days. So we're in that exact same position right now, looking at today. Yesterday we found support on that 100. We tested it in the overnight. We did the grinding around, and then we're opening above it, which is a little bit bullish, and could potentially, one potential scenario could be we begin to recover from here. Right? This was the bounce that we needed. That was the stronger hand buyers, and we get continuation from here. However, it could also mean that today we're just going to test it again. And if it fails, if it breaks, we have further downside continuation. We really don't know. And both of those scenarios could lead to pretty big moves. So that makes my intuition tell me probably neither of those will happen, and we'll just have another grind around day in here. So let's wait and see what happens. All right, let me open up the market profile. So we can see where the 100 daily SMA is here on the market profile. That's the general area where we'll be looking for support this morning. We are opening inside the previous day's range, opening inside the previous day's value area. Opening inside of there increases the odds that there's just going to be chop this morning, that the market is just going to grind up and down for the first half an hour to hour of the day, doing what we call price discovery. So what we'll be watching is where is the support and resistance as it does that. So if we find support inside of yesterday's range, above the 100 daily moving average, I would see that as bullish. Okay, so I'd be looking for that support. Once I felt like it was good and strong and the market was ready to turn the other way, I'd be willing to go long with it. But if we break through this 100 daily moving average, I'll be looking for shorts. We could potentially have support down here in the lower end of the overnight. So, it'd be kind of like look for a short from here to here. See, do we find support? If not, from here to here. See, do we find support? If not, monitor for continuation lower. Okay? If we find support there, it's very possible to find support there and then have that like grindy day. Like I pointed out earlier, where the market just grinds up and down over that 100 daily. So the first, important reference to the downside is that 100 daily SMA at around 45.64. Okay. To the upside, I'll be looking at yesterday's high. If we're able to get above yesterday's high, come back down and find some support, I would go long for continuation higher on the argument that we're bouncing off that 100 and we're about to get some continuation. Okay. So expecting chop and waiting to see what it gives us. 38 likes so far. Wow, that's great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. All right, so we got this week reference above at 45.93.50. We left behind yesterday. Once that gets repaired, we could get some resistance there. If not, the next target is yesterday's high. Remember, we're expecting chop. We're expecting it to find a level and come back down, find a level, come back up, and just kind of grind around here. Good morning to Cyrus, Laser Eye, Big Ray, MW, The Shaw, Philip, Steven, David Glass, RK. Cool splash page. What's a splash page? Who knows? You're welcome. Nicholas, good morning to you. JG with the GM. Been a minute, dude. Good to have you back. J Trader in the house. Good morning to you. David V, also in the house. Good to see you. Welcome. Nor Auto Trading, back with us. Good to see you. Ronald, good morning. Lahab is short the market. Obviously, I don't think the market's picked a direction, but I don't think you have too much to worry about being short. I think we're going to get some chop, and that will include chop down. Overlord 3000, good morning to you. San Diego Trader back in the house. Good morning. Sanju, good to see you. Scooball, do we have overnight inventory today with that V shape? Yeah, it's a good point. Overnight inventory was net long, but it didn't, when we open inside the previous day's range, particularly inside the previous day's value area, we always expect chop. So overnight inventory implies we expect the market to make a move a certain direction and then counter it. Chop is just grind. Designed up. Morning, yes, Scarvays. Danielle, good morning to you. Mark, morning. Esco, howdy to you. Freddie Gray, Freddie Gick, man, I always mess up your last name. Good morning. All right, so the first resistance was kind of at that overnight high. Fits with the chop scenario. So now we're looking for where does the market find support. Remember, it's pretty much bullish to find support anywhere above that 100 daily for the short term. Amir, good morning to you. Rev, greetings. Orestes, good morning to you. Danielle, the SPX cash broke a very long trend line and neckline, head and shoulders. Yeah, that trend line was one I saw for sure. And the futures did as well. Yeah, that'd be this blue trend line right here. Just broke through that yesterday. It's bearish. It's certainly bearish. Even on the weekly, it kind of looks like it's rolling over, you know? Also worth noting that the 50 daily seems to be lining up pretty close with the 20 weekly. Random fact for you. All right, well, so far so good for the bulls here. First bit of chop to the downside didn't even get below the opening price. So that means this area could act as support. We'll see if that can hold. If every time we chop back down into it, we find support in here. I don't love the 30 contracts at the low. Would have preferred to see at least 100. But good taper otherwise. Obviously, it's way too early to say because we're only like 10 minutes into the day. 5 minutes, in fact. But if we can keep the value area, that is this blue box that you see here, if we can keep that overlapping to higher from the blue box from yesterday, the value area from yesterday, that is a sign that the trend to the downside is coming to an end. So obviously way too early to make a call. If the market starts to trade down into here, we'll pull that value area lower, but just keep that in mind. Jim Dalton always says, we trade value, not price. The price is just an advertising mechanism. It shoots all around just to fool us into doing business. But value is very difficult to trade because that value area makes up where roughly 70% of the day's trade took place. So that's very difficult to move. So it's a good sign for a strong trend change. So far, so good. Like I said, to get me long the market, they got to get above yesterday's high and come back down and find some support in here. I'll get long with that support. Greg asks, what platform is he using? If you look below in the description, I've got a link where it says Market Profile Software. You can see that's the screen over here on the left that shows the market profile. I use a company called Window Trader. And then the internals I have on Thinkorswim, TD Ameritrade's platform. And for entering my trades, I use TradingView. All right, so let's test the support now. Can it hold? We got this first potential node right around the half back here, which we're testing now, around 93.50, and then around the opening price. Potential support there around 87. We got value overlapping to higher. Good taper on the low. Momentum clearly bullish, at least at the moment. Design knob, it just all seems very weak to me. Yeah, I mean, it seems a little weird if the continuation to the downside is going to take place. But that's why I say let's test the support and let's see if we've got it. Nunez, have you ever tried other market profile software? I did for like a week. I went and experimented with a couple others and just hated them. And was like, nope, I'm used to what I'm used to. I'll stick to what I've spent so much time staring at. It really is like it's pattern recognition, literally in the size and shape of the candlesticks. Just switching from 1 increment to 2 increment messes with me, even on the same exact software. So I like to keep things simple. All right, well, here's the last support. If this fails, the chop continues. John, good morning to you. Harry, ES resistance. Yeah, this was resistance. We may, if we find support now, though, we'll poke right through it. Heading up towards yesterday's high. If we find support. Nunez, yeah, it's like I talked about in the first 5 minutes. The potential, like the idea of his question was, we traded in the overnight below that 100 daily SMA. Right there. But then we pulled back up. Like they tested that area and they didn't want to do business down there and they pulled back up. What does that mean? Well, the one insight you could pull from it is that potentially we found support on the 100 daily and that we might get continuation higher. It's just not that strong of a signal to me. Just because I'm looking back at that previous time we came down to this 100 and we just grind and grind and grind around it. So to convince me we're not doing that, we got to get above yesterday's high. Design knob, don't say that. What do I know? Nothing. You're full of great advice all the time. All right. Well, we're starting to test that zero line on the ticks. Can that hold? That if the market starts to push below the zero line, it's a sign that there's more and more sellers piling on. If it does hold, we should go take out yesterday's high. All right, looks like resistance. So once again, we might find support around the opening price. If that fails, around the POC could potentially be some support in there. So we're talking about 79 to 77 area. And then if not, just above the 100 daily SMA. So 64 to 70 area. Some support in there as well. All right, so earlier this area around halfback was acting as support as we were trying to push higher. Does that now act as resistance? This level with the big volume cliff right here at 45.95. Does that act as resistance as we push into it? So far, yes. Man, the chop fest continues. No clear resistance there either. Okay. Screwball, what about we got support at the overnight high? Yeah, I'm not convinced it's support yet. That was support earlier, then we broke right through it. It acted as resistance for a second, then we broke right through it. So I think we may still just be getting chop here. Once again, to truly convince me to be bullish, got to get above yesterday's high. Got to get up there and then find support when we retest. Otherwise, this thing could find resistance here and trade right back down to that 100 daily. Just normal price discovery. So to have an edge, I have to wait for the entry. Nunez, but ticks above the zero line. Yeah, no, it's more bullish than it is bearish, but it's just not bullish enough to get me to enter a trade. You know, it is more bullish than bearish, but it's still undecided. The bulls and the bears are still doing their battle. We don't know who's going to win yet. Design Lab, are we talking about a real bull and a real bear going at it? I don't know, but if the bull could skewer the bear with his like horn, if he could get in there and like get him right in the throat, that fight would be over. Honestly, I suspect if a bull and a bear came across each other in the wild, they'd both just go the other way. They'd look at each other and be like, no thanks, not today. Let's take a look at the NQ. It looks like it's a little bit stronger than the ES, just from the candlesticks. Actually, no. Value still inside yesterday's value, so not quite stronger. But same thing as the ES. It opened, it tested lower, and then it never needed to come back down there and test that area again. So that's a little bit bullish. Diego, welcome. Welcome to the sub family. Yeah, of course you got to subscribe. That's how you tell YouTube you think I'm cool. And it should share my content with other people. Speaking of which, please push that like button. 112 people here, 58 likes. Can we get to 80? You guys got nothing else to do. There's no trades to take here. Chop City. All right, so we just created a little poor high here in the B period. We would expect a push away from the poor high, meaning to the downside. But then once the market finds support, it increases the odds. It'll come back and take that out at some point and repair it. So internals are giving me a rotational vibe here, as they are not bullish, but the market is pushing higher. We built this city on chop and roll. MW, Charles, is TIKSP preferred over tick for internals? I assume that's the tick for just the S&P stocks. To be honest with you, I've never looked at it. Never once in my life. Oh, and we don't get it on TradingView. Bummer. Shubaho Deep. Charles. 118 line breach, retest, and bounce would likely seem bullish. Yes. It seemed very, very bullish to me. If we can get above yesterday's high, pull back down and retest it for support, I would love that. Because again, the argument that you could make then is that the market found support at the 100 and is heading on up. All right. Well, the market's trying to find support. Where are the buyers at? Man, internals very rotationally feeling. Shubaho Deep, would these drop downs from the highs qualify as liquidity breaks? Do you mean like on the longer term basis? Do you mean like these pullbacks? No, it's not a liquidity break. I guess in a way, on a longer term basis, it's kind of a liquidation break. But I see it more as like the momentum coming to an end is what it feels like. Like if you look at the weekly, it's much easier to see. You can see how clear the momentum to the upside is in here. Like from here to here, you can see how clear the momentum is to the upside. But now it's starting to wean, and it's starting to kind of slow down and run out of steam. That's what it feels like. Oh boy. All right, last support right around this opening price. If not, we're heading further down into yesterday's range. Looking at yesterday's POC. 79.25-ish as potential support. Man, poor high and a poor low. I've never seen this much. Well, I have seen this before. Just very rare. Indecision City. So your question now is, all right, Charles, we got a poor high and a poor low. How do we know which one's likely to get taken out first? Well, we just have to watch the ticks. Which direction are they going? And they don't tell us. They're just flat. Great, great. All right, continue to sit on one's hands. That's what the market is saying. So repair of the poor low. Again, I target looking for support around the POC. If that fails, down here around the 68.70 area. This is crazy. They are really stuck in this tight little range. Internals still look rotational. NQ seems a little stronger. Let's take a look at the Q. Oh yeah, it does look a little better. We now have the value area overlapping to higher, which we didn't have earlier. So that's a little bit bullish to see. Also, the value area is right up against the highest TPO. And that's often a sign you need a little more access to the upside. So that is bullish. Made a higher low yesterday in the regular trading hours. Yeah, I still just think it's too early to call. Too early to call. Market's in indecision mode. All right, so the poor low was the first to get repaired. So now we're looking for support inside yesterday's range. There's lots of areas where they could find support. If you look at the cumulative volume over here, the area around the POC, we're pushing into here in a little bit, around 79 could have support. If not down here, where I've got it marked. The reason I'm changing myself to neutral and not to bearish here, even though I do think the market is going to pull back a little bit more, is because I wouldn't want to short it for the pullback. I'd rather wait for the support and buy that, or short it once it breaks below that 100 daily. Just because it feels so much like it's setting up for a rotational day here. Even this sell-off is very orderly. So to me, it feels like we're setting up for a day where we just kind of grind around inside yesterday's range. So I'm going neutral for now. But if we don't find support around this 100 daily, I'll get very bearish very quick. Shubaho Deep. Lows getting repaired and finding support would at least look to hold 2/3 of the session before a fail. 2/3 of the session before a fail or continuation. I'm not sure what you're asking there, brother. I'm sorry. 2/3 of yesterday's session? Jitten made a poor low in the overnight. I did notice that, but I didn't really want to pay it any attention. But it is there, yeah. For sure. Yeah, sorry, Shubaho. I still don't quite understand what it is you're asking, though. I get that you're saying today's session, but I don't understand what you're asking. So if the lows get taken out and find support, we'll hold 2/3 of the day's range? No idea, my man. Essentially, here, Shubaho, I can explain what I think really simplistically. I think if we get below this level and we don't find support and trade back up into it, if we get below here and we don't trade back in, we're going lower. I think if we get above here, come back down and find support, we're going higher. Anything in between, I think we're going to have a day that looks just like yesterday. Chop, grind, up and down. Could I zoom in a bit? Yeah, I mean, I can zoom in a little bit, but both markets still just seem to be looking for support to me. This doesn't feel like a panic selling type of situation. Just price exploration. Okay. Leaving behind these single prints from the B period increases the odds that at some point today we will trade higher to backfill those single prints and look for resistance right there at 45.8350. Oh, and another poor low. Color me shocked. All right, guys, so zooming out a bit, once again, my opinion really hasn't changed. I can see a very realistic scenario where we just kind of grind around in this area inside yesterday's range today. So I'm looking towards the lower end of yesterday's range, right around where that 100 daily SMA is. I'm looking for support in this area, and I don't really get bearish until that breaks, okay? If we push through there and come back up and find some resistance, I'd be happy to target the lows of the overnight, looking for support there. And then if those break, continuation lower. But otherwise, to my mind, I think we still will find support there and start rotating back up. So let's wait and see. If you're a member of the Brigade, I shall see you over on the private stream. Where is that thing? There it is. If you're not a member of the Brigade, you can join anytime. It only costs $10 a month. And otherwise, I will see you here tomorrow morning. Thank you all so very much. Have a great rest of your day.